What's going on, guys? It's Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of the Powerlifting for People podcast. I'm your host. We got an interview today with Bruce Knox. What's going on?
What's going on, dude? How you doing?
Cool. So yeah, we're starting the recording now. We had like a little bit of a quick chat before, so I wanted to just rewind and kind of get going with the podcast. So just really quick, brief intro of like who you are, what you got going on right now, and maybe how long you've been like lifting and competing for.
Well, so I'm Bruce Knox. I own Knox Power Company. It's a little 2,000 square foot personal training gym. We've been here for about 3 years. We started during COVID, right in the middle of COVID. Been powerlifting for over a decade. Been strict curling for probably about 8 years. Yep, and here we are.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So like I said, we kind of before we started recording, I think we kind of bumped into each other at like I think it was like a drug tested like USPA meet that I was coaching at in Maryland. And then, kind of as far as like how I got into strict curl, and I kind of mentioned this, I interviewed, Cooper, I interviewed TFAB recently. So I'm trying to, get like the notable characters from the sport and everything and just kind of, expose some people to some of the, the bigger names, people that have been doing it a little bit longer at a higher level. Um, and yeah, back in 2020, we did a kind of like an unsanctioned thing at our gym. And then I don't remember how I kind of stumbled across strict curl. It might have been John Archibald was kind of more interested in it. He was like getting pretty good. He had some good numbers, like just kind of out of the gate. And then I think that he did a meet at Pat Russo's place in Connecticut. And then we kind of started to go to the Mr. America. We had some people do the Arnold.
He was at the Arnold, right?
Yeah. And that was kind of before like they switched over with the bars and stuff. And I know and that's something we can kind of talk about, whatever, like you have like your more traditional easy bar, the OBZ, and now we got the Gopher bar, which is kind of like in a different, it's definitely a different lift, and we can kind of maybe talk about what your kind of views are and your opinion. But I know it looks like if you're kind of strong on one, you're going to be strong on the other. It's just a little bit, maybe of a little bit of a carryover or slightly different technique, but yeah, that's kind of like how we got involved with it. I'm doing my first meet in about like 9 days. I'm actually going up to Pat Russo's gym with our little one. Bryn's doing it as well. So this will be her second one. The first meet that she did, we had to use like a lighter, like 13-pound, like easy bar. She wasn't like strong enough to do the full. Now she's doing the full 25-pound gopher bar and like a little change on there, which is cool. So we're excited. So I'm kind of actually experimenting with myself. I've been, curling 3 times a week, taking it real seriously. I don't know if that's going to be the frequency I stick with it because I'm getting my elbows and stuff are getting a little bit beat up, but I'm kind of enjoying the process. I'm getting better with it. I'm learning the form. I just want to rewind a little bit. I know and we could definitely talk about powerlifting too, but because obviously you had some good numbers. I think you totaled like around like 1700 or so, like in powerlifting.
Almost 1697 point whatever.
Yeah,
Almost got to 1700.
so we'll give you, but so that's a great. I know you kind of like go back and forth between like the 220s and 242. So that's a great like total. So what was your first, I guess, how did you first like learn about like strict curl and like I guess what like kind of caught your interest with even just kind of attempting it, in the first place?
So probably like back in 2015, I messed my knee up
Hmm.
and I couldn't squat and I couldn't deadlift and I couldn't even bench with my feet on the floor. I couldn't use leg drive. So, I wanted to keep competing, lifting, whatever. So my buddy Zach, he went to Tim Henriquez NPTI, National Personal Training Institute. And I don't know if you know Tim Henriquez, but
So
he
I've
was
been,
like,
yeah. It's no Tim was a great lifter too. So really quick, I don't mean to cut you off. I just think it's so funny. So back in 2011, when I opened up my business, I was like one of the strength writers for like I don't know if you remember T Nation. So like T Nation,
yeah,
and Tim was like one of like their top kind of strength kind of columnists too. And so he was actually someone I was trying to get on. We've been kind of missing each other, but I know that he was kind of big. And actually, one of the first pieces of education, that I came across was one of the articles
yeah.
that
It's the first. It's like the first and like only thing. Like you Google strict curl
not a
programming,
lot. There's not
and
a lot
his
that
T Nation article
that's
comes
like
up.
that's like number one hit. So that's so like funny. But
Yeah,
yeah, keep going. So
yeah. So anyway, so like I messaged him. I was like, what's up with strict curl? Can I jump in this meet? And I did. I think the Christmas Classic in 2015 or something. Um, went in there and did my first strict curl meet. I think I curled like maybe 155 in my first meet. And
Was that
you
raw? Was
touched
that
on,
and was that 100% raw as well?
yeah, that was 100% raw. And you touched on like the bars, different bars they're using. And, people are lately like, oh, this is the OG bar, blah, blah, blah. So like actually like the OG bar was like any like beater bar they found, any beater curl bar they could find. And, like this one was probably like a 17-pound, like,
Yeah.
fake chrome curl bar that was just like, it was straight, basically straight, no curve in it. So that's the original bar, that we would use. But after that, strict curling for my first time, 155 pounds was pretty good. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. And then I went to Worlds, and I guess it was in 2016. Later that next year, and met up with John and Max, and we all won our weight classes. And then after that, we've stayed in contact. We've had a text thread for the last
Yeah.
whatever that is, 8 years. So just, and like I said, there's nothing out there for strict curl. So me, Max and Coop, everything we've learned from strict curl is through each other and just trying stuff, right? Trying stuff, bouncing it off each other. And, like you said, you're strict curling 3 days a week right now. Like Coop used to do that, right? And I tried it. I can't do it. It kills my arms. Like I was doing 1 day a week for a while, and then like I found that like 2 days a week, you have one heavy
Heavy
and
light.
one maybe moderate lighter day. Like that works best, especially. Coop's a little different because he was never doing full power, so I was always doing full power. So I'm always doing squat, bench, deadlift, and strict curl training all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you do all that stuff. Like it's first of all, it's hard to get everything in, and second of all, it just crushes you.
Yeah, so right now also too for people that are, that care. So I'm not squatting or deadlifting, which it's just a lot more systemically fatiguing, so I'm not like loading my spine right now. I'm like trying to take this as like serious. I'm trying to make this like a true experiment. And actually I'm not I'm kind of was dealing with a little bit of a shoulder thing, so and this is something I'm just playing with too. I've only actually been reverse grip benching, which I think might like have some transfer to the shoulder strength. I don't know. But I've been reverse grip benching. I haven't been really squatting or deadlifting heavy. I've been doing more like I've been doing like lower body accessory work. But and I think like you, I'm probably gonna just switch it to like twice a week after like this meet. But it was a good experiment nonetheless.
Sure, yeah.
The high frequency was like all the rage and like the tested like powerlifting now, and I've never really I've been like a kind of a West Side guy. And it's funny you said that too about like you learned a lot like just by talking to each other, and probably had some great conversations like over dinner, like at meets and stuff like that. So, I kind of grew up in that equipped lifting era. So we had to like really drive out sometimes several hours to kind of meet up with people that like could spot us and like kind of learn the equipment and stuff. There was no, now people are so accessible that like we connected through, Instagram, and it's just like a different world now. So I just think it's funny.
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, so I guess as far as like as you said you kind of like started off pretty like at a pretty good level, 155. Um, as far as like anything, as far as what were you kind of doing for training back then, and as far as any kind of like as far as what you've learned along the way, as far as maybe some mistakes that you made, or kind of any kind of like big light bulb moments, like I really felt like this type of program worked well, or these type of exercises really had like a high transfer, or even like some of the technical parts of lift. Cause I know you guys are like the people that I kind of like learned from, and I'm trying to emulate some of my form as far as it's almost, and I don't want to speak for you, but to like my eye, it almost looks like like a clean, like a reverse grip clean in a sense where you're kind of almost kind of getting
Right.
under the weight. So I
Right.
know there's like a lot there, but anything as far as, techniques or exercises that you found like were really beneficial in terms of
Well, so let's go back to the beginning. So like I was always an outside curler,
wide.
right?
Yeah.
And I think Coop was an outside curler for like a half a second, and then he switched to inside. And I stayed with outside grip for a long time because, all right, so we had the beater bar type thing, right? And then they switched to the OBZ 55, which had a really nice angle for outside grip. So I was doing outside grip, and it was working well with that angle. And then they switched to OBZ 30, which had a little flatter angle on it, which completely destroyed any outside grip curling you're going to do. So So back then, so I was, like you said, an underhand clean. I was doing a little bit of that technique with that outside grip, but it was a little more difficult. And then I had to switch. I switched to inside grip for the OBZ 30. And that's when I really started to develop that high pull and jumping under it. Um, and so, like, you know, how you said, um, you're not doing a lot of squats or deadlifts, right? So like from what I see with a lot of curlers that are just basically lever curling, right? It doesn't really matter, right? Because you're mainly working your biceps, right? You're just doing a lever curl. For my technique, where it's like I'm making it kind of like a true power lift, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a single joint movement. I'm using my whole body, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of people they don't like. But you know, that's the whole idea of powerlifting, right? You stay within the rules, right? And you try to be as efficient as possible. Okay, so I try to do that underhand clean. So I'm going to pull it up as high as I can and jump under it. And the way I feel, you know, since I'm a okay power lifter, right, pretty strong overall, that helps me with being able to do that high pull, right, and jumping under it using every muscle group I can, you know, rather than just doing a lever curl with my biceps.
Yeah, I've found for me, because obviously, like, again, not I focus more on equipped lifting, but I've totaled like over 2,000 pounds like numerous times. Recently this past year, I totaled 2,100, 242 equipped. Um, I've deadlifted 700 on a few occasions in training. I still that's like a monkey on my back. I got a sore subject. I got to do it in a meet still, but I do felt like having that base of like just general strength helped me kind of progress a little bit faster. I felt like my back
Right.
was strong enough, my traps were strong enough. Um, and oddly enough, like I felt like my forearms and stuff are been kind of getting a little bit beat up and sore, but and also I've been kind of really training like my front delts a lot, my shoulders. I feel like my shoulders and traps are there's a lot more than just your biceps like kind of going on. So I don't know if there's any other outside of like doing the strict curl itself, any other kind of like supplemental exercises or
So
things that you find have like a lot of carryover to that, but those the competition movement, I should say.
so leading up to this year's Worlds, I did a little experiment with myself and a client of mine, Alexis. She ended up curling, I think, 117.9 at Worlds, something like that. So we really hit. I always put in snatch grip high pulls, but I never really pushed it, right? So this go around, like probably for 3 months leading up to Worlds, we both pushed it, right, heavy. So I got up to like over 400 pounds snatch grip high pull, right? So I tried to put as much distance between my snatch grip high pull and my curl, right? So like if I can snatch grip high pull 430 pounds and I go and try to strict curl like 207 pounds, like picking up that strict curl, you know, it's going to feel like nothing, right? So we did that. And then I did a lot of low to high cable flies, right? So like the weakness of my technique is the catch point, right? So you toss that thing up with power and then you catch it, right? And then you got to reel it in. That's the hardest position. So I was doing a lot of, you know, low to high flies, pretty
Sure.
heavy. Yeah, and both those seem to work. I mean, we both broke world records.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's kind of like similar things. So you're doing like some sort of shoulder slash front delt pec movement with like that underhand
Right.
grip position. And that's kind of been my thought process too. So I've been doing a lot of and I'm still kind of figuring out like should I do it with dumbbells? Should I do it with barbells? Should I do it with like you said you do use a cable primarily. But yeah, I've been doing reverse grip bench primarily as like my like shoulder movement, and I've also been kind of experimenting with just like underhand, like just really big range of motion, like shoulder raises and stuff like that. And just like some Yates rows and things like that, and like upright rows and just things to kind of work your traps and back in like kind of a similar position. So yeah, I think that's and then the other things that I kind of see and I kind of like I'm kind of curious your take on this because I see some people going very, very heavy on like seated curls, very, very heavy on preacher curls. And I have like my own opinions on it, but those are kind of like two popular exercises I've seen. So I'm curious, like, have you found success in either of those or any like other like actual curling motions, or do you mostly focus on
Um,
just the competition movement and like kind of dialing in the
you know,
form like
I
that?
mean, I don't know if you've seen any of my videos, but it's funny you asked about seated curls because Alexis just asked about that the other day. I don't like seated curls for my technique because it just sits me too low. right? It puts me below my catch point, right? So, like way back when I was doing just like dead strict curls, right? So I set it up. I was setting it up in a rack. Yeah. So now I set it up on my platform with little spot stands, and you adjust it. For my lifters who do this technique, you adjust it to your catch point, right? And then you just finish right there, right? I don't like seated curls. I mean they're good for lever curlers, right? Because that's their whole basically, their whole range of motion. Um, but what was the other one you asked about?
And preachers, because I saw like I've seen people do.
Yeah, like preachers are good. We have been doing preachers ever since Worlds. I haven't been doing any strict curls. I don't really do a ton of preacher curls as like prepping for competition. I like to do it afterwards,
Sure.
and we've been the last month, we've been hitting a lot of preacher curls, but nothing too crazy heavy.
Yeah, just from my my understanding of biomechanics and stuff, like for me, like I see people going very heavy on it. I've also seen people like Leroy doing like he'll do and I'm not sure like what the point is. I'd love to maybe chat with him at some point. Like he'll use like a it'll be like a loading pin with like another like attached. I'm not sure. He does some like kind of out there stuff, but obviously it's working for him. But my fear would be if someone like if you're really heavy and the weight gets out in front of you, like and something like you're just kind of in that vulnerable position, and like I said, obviously you're when the weight's out in front of you, you have that bigger moment arm, and like I said, your
Oh
biceps
yeah, yeah,
really vulnerable. So like for me, like I would say I like to do preachers more for like more reps and like lighter, just even for
sure.
safety reasons because I see a lot of people they'll kind of just like leverage it back and it ends up being like a seated curl like anyway, and they're not even really doing a true they're kind of like rocking their body back. So that's just like kind of my opinion on like the I don't think really heavy preachers make a lot of sense in my brain. And I like your like at least your rationale for the seated curls. And even when I try to do them, I try to like mimic that, kind of reeling in motion versus kind of I see a lot of people who kind of swing and lean back, and I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah,
You're not really
I
training the
mean,
same positions, but
I think you can have both ways. I like some sloppy lifting. I do. If you're the type of person that can get away with it, I mean, obviously you wouldn't try to do that stuff with somebody who's just getting into, strict girls or lifting. But if you're somebody that I don't know, maybe wants a little more of that like stimulus of heavy weights,
sure.
I'm all for some sloppy stuff. And then you touched on some on moment arms, right? So we were talking about the bars a little bit earlier. So when the Gopher bar came out, right? They switched from the OBZ 30 to the Gopher bar. And I ran the numbers on the two based on moment arms, right? So the Gopher bar, obviously, you can get deeper in the bar. It puts the center of mass of the bar deeper on your forearm, so it shortens that moment arm, right? So I found that it takes 12% more force to curl the same weight with the OBZ 30 than the Gopher bar, but that's if you use the Gopher bar correctly. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people do when they're curling with any bar, but a lot with the Gopher bars, they don't hold it right, right?
Right.
They just let the Gopher bar fall however it wants to fall. And if you let it fall how it wants to fall, it'll increase your moment
So
arm,
what
right?
it wants
And
to.
it's very difficult to hold the Gopher bar, the correct way.
Yeah, so that's
So
it's so funny, and that's actually one of the things I've been I kind of mentioned about like some of my other members, John and Ed. So like, and Ed's doing fantastic, but sometimes he lets that thing kind of roll in his hand, and I'm like, dude, if you could just get that thing to set properly, because he's curling 130 pounds at like in the 120s, body weight, which is like insane. And I'm like, if you actually get the grip correct, I feel like he's got
right.
more in him. But um, I mean, as far as just being aware of it, you think, and just practice, or is there anything like as far as tips, as far as because I feel like for newer lifters, especially, that thing tends to like roll pretty quickly, and they're not like they might not even be aware of it. But as
Yeah.
far as
So what
anything,
I like to do, I don't know if you saw, I posted a picture of my thumbs after I hit that 207.2 at Worlds, and they were completely shredded off.
yeah, mine's
Right.
getting bad too.
Yeah. So what I try to get as much like surface area of my skin on that knurling as possible, so that bar doesn't go anywhere. Right. So when I get my hands on that bar, I get in the deepest groove, right, and I push all of this on that up groove of that bar, right? So I'm getting knurling on my palm and knurling all right here, right? So that thing's locked in. It's not going to go anywhere. But the one risky thing, right? So you want to hold that. You want to hold that the angles of that gopher bar vertical, basically, right? You want to have the same angle as your forearm, right? So the risky thing about that is if you have it a little too far forward and you go to pick it up, it's going to roll out of your hands. It's going to fall on the ground, right? So that's the risky part about that. So you just got to have it just right. Make sure you have tons of chalk, get as much skin on that knurling as possible, and squeeze tight, and you should be okay.
And I don't know, have you ever had any grip issues with deadlift or anything, or just in general, or if you always had
I
like a,
did at that USPA meet. I was having terrible grip issues. I could barely hang on to the bar for some reason. I don't know. So, but after that meet, all I did was just flip my hands over, and it was fine.
yeah. I was just curious because I know I'm getting to the point. I've been just, and again, I don't know if I've just been experimenting with just some like, I've been like just practicing my setup with like, above my max. So I've been like taking out like 210, I guess like 95 kilos or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, man, I'm having a hard time. Like, so I feel it at that weight, I feel it rolling more, but at like my actual working
Sure.
set,
Yeah. Yeah.
feel, so it was just kind of interesting, but, it's like, man,
So
'cause I know, yeah, go
you're
ahead.
playing around with like heavy. You're playing around with like heavy holds with strict
I
curl.
just trying to like, so basically like what I'm doing, and again, if you and we could, I'm happy to chat more if this gets too long, or but so basically what I've been doing is I have a max effort day, I have a volume day, and then I have like a speed slash technique day. So I'm doing right now, I'm doing like either triples, doubles, or singles on the first day, and then I'll do reverse bands overload. That's kind of what I know from the West Side powerlifting. So it kind of lets go like at that kind of catch point, so it gets very
Yeah.
difficult. So I think that's been working well, and it feels, again, so far it's been working. It's still like a new experiment. Um, Volume day, again, just getting, I'm just kind of spreading out the workload to another day instead of like kind of doing, because a lot after, I don't know if you after a heavy single, a heavy double, heavy triple, sometimes you're kind of smoked. And then the back down sets may or may not happen, but that's just, I elected to kind of
Right.
just move the volume to another day. And then this I've been really like, I think this has been helping me more than anything else. I have a daisy strap, and I'll use anywhere from 20 to 27 pounds of chains. So it's zero at like the start, and then it's like a full 20 to 20, depending on which chain I use, 27 at the lockout. And again, that really kicks like when it's at your transition point, you're getting, so if you're
Right.
not in the right position, you're going to get punished. If you're in a good position, you'll be able to kind of grind through. And because I feel like sometimes at a certain point, you could be really good at like those light weights, whipping it around, but then like, can you? Are you able to transition with the heavyweights? So I felt like with the chains, you're really kind of practicing that transition because it kind of gets heavier at the lockout. So I think that's been like kind of used like a lot of that.
No, I mean, so like I have the same mindset. Like when I first started, so I had a powerlifter's mindset. I didn't have a specialist, strict curl specialist mindset, and that's what the majority of people in strict curl are specialists, right? So I did all that stuff. I did all the reverse bands. I did chains and everything. Just tried to try to get like a little bit more of like an overload type
Yeah,
stuff. Because like you're right, you can rip off reps, but it seems like in my experience, when you get to a certain point in strict curl, right, it's like no longer like you're increasing like at a linear rate, right? Like if
yes,
you like when I got to 200 pounds, like it's things are a snail pace, right? Each pound seems it's exponentially higher, right?
sure.
It took me, I think, so I curled 206 in April at Masters. So it took me from April to November to put 1.1 pounds on my strict curl, right? So it's like it's so slow once you get up to the higher numbers and once you've been training for a long time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's kind of one of the reasons why, like, outside of like, I want to understand it better from a coaching standpoint, like for me to like, try to like in equipped powerlifting total more than 2,100 at this point. I feel like my body weight's gonna have to go up. I'm gonna have to do all these crazy things. So like, or use a tighter bench shirt, which I don't really want to do. So that's like a whole other thing with equipped lifting. Um, so that's why and I'm having fun with it. So, but yeah, I feel like, and I like with the strict curl, you could take those half kilo jumps, so you could hit
Yeah,
like a very small PR and just keep like chipping
yeah.
away,
I mean,
which
you
is
need
like,
it. I mean, you need those small jumps.
no, it's just not. It's nice to like. It's just nice to be able, because sometimes like I said, a 5 pound or 2.5 kilos on a strict curl is like a pretty.
No,
It
it's huge.
could be a big
Yeah.
jump even for some of the bigger guys. So,
No, it
um,
is a big jump. Yeah.
so I guess we kind of went over a lot of technical stuff, a little bit of your background, and then we went over some mistakes. If someone was kind of just getting started, they were kind of interested, um, like what advice do you have someone that's maybe kind of new to the sport or maybe is kind of interested in getting involved, whether it be lifting in general or, if you want to be more specific with the strict curl, I think that's cool too.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about strict curl. So if you want to get involved with strict curl, find somebody that does it. Find a coach. And don't. So if you want to do strict curl, don't just roll up to the gym and just find your max first day. That's probably one of the dumbest things you can do. Because most likely you're going to be lever curling and you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on your biceps. So you don't want to do that. Just reach out to somebody that knows what they're doing. And there's a lot more people out there now. I mean, everybody's on Instagram and they're willing to help you. And you're coaching people now, and I'm coaching people. I have programs on my website and stuff like that. But then just sign up for a local meet. I mean, and 100% raw, like the local meets, everybody out of I've competed in USAPL, USPA, and 100% raw, and 100% raw is my favorite just because there's no dickheads really. Everybody's nice and everybody's willing to help you. I mean, nobody's going to be an asshole to you. So
Yeah.
just sign up for a meet and give it a try.
Yeah, I think that's good. Obviously, I agree with you. I think if you could find physical training partners, that's always my like first, kind of suggestion. If not, there's plenty of people. So, you got like I don't know if there's any like sites that you like. I know like you got like Strict Curl Everything. Obviously, Strict Curl Nation, you got 100% raw. Any besides like I mean, if you want to we usually plug your accounts at the end, but if you want to any like accounts they should be following or like if people they should follow or if they're like
I
looking for.
mean, you said it like strict girl, everything. Followed John Cooper puts a lot of stuff up there. Alistair Nash puts a lot of stuff up there. Obviously, me, Knox Power Company. And then yeah, I mean, I guess there's Curl Talk and I guess Strict Girl Nation too. You know, but I would say don't wait. Like jump in a meet. You know, I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, and then I the other thing I wanted to kind of highlight that you said is like don't just like treat it like a main lift, treat it like you would
Oh yeah,
I think because I think that's kind of a mistake too, and even some of our higher level guys sometimes I'm like at least do it once a week just for maintaining your technique and stuff because then you could kind of jump into a meet. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be heavy all the time, but I think that you always want to be practicing your technique if it's something you want to kind of pursue. And even if it's like once a week, like I said, or like I said, if you get more serious, you can kind of, I know, I guess you're curling twice a week now. But even just once a week as a starting point, I think is fine
yeah.
for.
I mean, that's what I did for years. I did once a week for years, and then like what I would also do is I switch all my pulling stuff, my pull downs and rows to supinated, right? So I always get that extra bicep work. And then obviously, you can do more weight on those things, right? So you get a little overload on those biceps.
Awesome, man. Definitely want to, keep chatting, maybe do a part two. And I know just as far as people like want to follow, I know you kind of mentioned your Instagram again, but I don't know if you have a website or anything else that you want to plug.
Yeah.
Anything come up.
Check out kpcstrong.com. I have I think 5 strict curl programs on there. It goes from like pure beginner, which is just like basic stuff, to like a extremely advanced program, which I use to compete in the super total strict curl and power curl meet, that was like the first and only of its kind. John Cooper came up to Maryland, and we hosted it at this old gym, and it was 4 attempts strict curl, 4 attempts power curl for a total. So that was pretty cool. Maybe we get another one of those going on sometime soon.
The power curls just standing like with no wall, I guess, or
Yeah, so it was USA Power Curl. It was a guy, Patrick Mizell, who like apparently it was kind of not big, but it was around like maybe in the 80s or 90s, and he brought it back in Maryland, and he was hosting a bunch of these meets. And me, Max, and Coop caught on to it. And this particular power curl, I know a couple other federations have power curl, but this particular power curl, so you stand straight up, everything's locked out, and all movement is vertical, but you can lean back. But if you lean back, you can't come back forward, right? So you can lean back and keep taking it, but you
yeah,
can't meet it up. So it's like, it's a sort of a stricter style power curl. You can't lean forward and then go with it. But that
yeah.
was a lot of fun.
That's really cool. I know I see it's one of those things where I feel like it's hard to judge. I know, like, if you really go back in powerlifting history with like odd lifts, like a barbell curl was like an event like pretty regularly. And I know on the West Coast they're having a little bit more at that grinder gym. That's like been some, I don't know if you follow their page, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's one of those things where again, I'm kind of definitely like from a safety factor, from a more of a purist factor, I do even go for bar OBZ aside. I do like the strict curl a little bit more, but I think it's cool just to have options. When I my first exposure to just competitive curling, actually, I got started because I'm from New York originally. I did a lot of the meets in Bordentown in I don't know if you WNPF, Troy Ford. So they had a power curl as well. Um, and again, no wall. That was like kind of the biggest distinction, I think. So I know 100% raw always had like the wall or the
yeah.
bench, and then WNPF just had a standing curl. And I remember I was like, oh, I'm like, I think I could break, like, I was a teenager at the time. I think I could break like the record or whatever. And the same thing, like you just couldn't lean forward, but once you got the curl
Right.
signal, you just had to like kind of, so I guess they, kind of, so I remember I was able to lean back pretty good. I was a little bit more flexible in my youth, but
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you can really like, it's just kind of like when people do like overhead press and stuff like that. Like you can almost make
like
that to like an
that lay
incline
back.
bench. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. And I know that I guess you're going to be hosting some meets as well, like maybe in the future, or is that like the
Yeah,
plan?
I mean, I'm Maryland State Chairman. So I'm on the hook for at least two. As you probably know, as a business owner, it's like a lot of work to do everything. So to squeeze these two meets in, I'm definitely going to do the American Challenge in June, and I'm thinking about maybe strict curl meet in the wintertime,
Cool.
sometime. But the dates will be up on the Raw website.
Well, definitely before we like close out, we could just have a quick chat about that. And I'd love to because we're close enough. I'd love to support, and I know like my fiance, she's getting into it too. I think she said it's Alexis as your team member. I think they're in
Yeah,
like
yeah, Alexis.
I think they're in the same weight class, so I think that'd be like fun to
Oh
get
yeah, yeah.
get them going together too. So she's working toward her first 100. So that's like her next
That's a big
milestone. So
milestone. Yeah,
we're excited, but.
have to get you up to 200.
Yeah, well, that's what I know. I'm trying to like be reasonable, but that's like Coop really quick, and then I'll stop the recording. But so I got it's cool, and I appreciate it. It's just like everyone's very nice, which not like I said, not everyone in every other powerlifting federation. Not to say like most
Right.
powerlifters are good, but I definitely
Yeah,
feel
yeah, yeah.
it's everyone's really cool, especially the top guys. So yeah, Coop's like, yeah, I think you got like at least 80 kilos in you, and you should be looking towards 200. I'm trying to like let me just go like 175, 185, and
Right.
but I think that like when I first started, I didn't know if 200 was going to be like a possible for me, and now that I did 173, I'm like, okay, like that's like a cool like long term goal, but I'm not like in a rush to do
Sure.
it. I think that
Yep.
I have the base of strength, and I think if I kind of take it seriously, but I'm having fun with it. It doesn't hurt, so that's like always good.
I
It's
mean,
like
that's the main thing. Having fun's the main thing. I mean, that's why we all do this hobby of powerlifting, right?
yeah, I think that's kind of a good like kind of take home point too. Like this should be fun, guys. This should be. It's like I know that we obviously take it seriously. We put a lot of time and effort into this, but if you're not having
Sure. Yeah.
fun with it, I think that's really important. That's a like I said, you've been doing this a long time, over a decade. I've been competing since 2006, so take it for some people that have been been in it for a while. So you got to make sure you're having fun. Um,
Yep.
give Bruce a follow. We'll definitely be on the lookout for your meets. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, please give it a 5-star review. Please share it. Helps other people find us. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.